views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Welcome to the transformative show, We Carry the Light, with host Dr. Susan Allison, the show that inspires you to find the light within and shine your light in the world. Who are you right now? And who do you want to be? What is it that makes you happy, helps you feel fulfilled, and living your purpose? Tune in and let Dr. Susan help you discover that you carry the unique light that only you can shine. Now, here is your host, Dr. Susan Allison.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to We Carry the Light. I'm Dr. Susan, and thank you so much for being here today, listening either live or to the archive show. And don't forget, you can go to all the archive shows you've missed. Go to transformationtalkradio.com and go to my host page, Dr. Susan Allison, and you can, for free, listen to all of my archive shows and download them as podcasts. So how are you doing, and how is your week? I always tell you about mine. It's, I have this captive audience. I can tell you how my week has been going, and it's been super busy and still just very, very rich, and I've been so enjoying the last few days reading Stephanie Banks' new book, A Soulful Awakening. I love the title especially because of its multiple meanings, but I'm going to let her tell you about that in a minute. So I could relate to so much in the book, and I don't know if you have had a near-death experience or if you have had an accident or an illness that has completely changed your life, made you look at life differently, look at yourself differently, and perhaps it has opened up a part of you that's been hidden. And this happened to Stephanie, and it has certainly happened to me. So I'll just tell you a bit about my story. I've had several mountain biking accidents, from riding too fast, from riding when I'm too tired, not fully in my body and present, which is a huge lesson, isn't it, right there, just to be fully present always. I've sprained knees, I've sprained ankles, I've had rotator cuff injuries in both shoulders. But I didn't ever experience near death during those times, although I thought I might. I did have something that happened, though, that was very scary, which was my appendix ruptured. And I didn't go to the doctor as soon as I should. I tend to be a person to put my head down and I just keep going no matter what, which isn't always a good thing. So I ended up in the hospital and my appendix had burst. And suddenly I felt this sense of peace and this warmth, and I had angels all around my bed, and my husband saw them as well. And, at the time he said, I didn't know if they were here to take you with them or they were here to help heal you. And since I am right here and I did live through it, obviously they were there to help heal me. But it was still quite an experience. And after that, which was about 10 years ago, all kinds of things started coming through. I had never been a songwriter. I'd been a singer, but never a songwriter. And suddenly songs started downloading. I called them divine downloads. I just would get the whole song. I would get all the lyrics, the melody, and it would come in sometimes just whoosh in all at once. I had to quickly record it or I would lose it. And that happened. I became more psychic. I became more able to have visions. And for my clients in my psychotherapy practice, I would see, and I still do, see visions for them and get messages that I give to them that are metaphors many times of what is going on in their life in terms of their situation. So in other words, my health crisis and near death actually activated inner gifts and talents for me, really actually helped me discover my soul's purpose. Even though I had an inkling then, I definitely am right in the flow of the stream of it now, and I act on it every day of my life. So you are going to love our guest today, Stephanie Banks, who also had a near-death experience that changed her life in so many miraculous ways. Stephanie Banks is an award-winning author who is quickly making her mark as an accomplished writer. She was born into a family of intuitives who encouraged her to accept guidance from within. Prior to Stephanie's near-death experience, she led an ordinary life that lacked depth and clarity. Immediately following her horrific accident, she became what she calls an awakened soul. She now dedicates her life to mastering ancient wisdom and writing candidly about all she's learned. Her strong connection to the non-physical realm offers guidance and transformation to all those that seek profound insight. She lives with her family in British Columbia, Canada, and she can be contacted at www.stephaniebanks.org. So, Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Susan. Thanks for sharing that story. It was beautiful. It was really nice to hear that, and the confirmation for me as well.
Kindred souls, which I find on my show all the time. It's like it's like the law of attraction. I keep every single week there's somebody that I resonate with. I'm sure my guests resonate with, and your story was an amazing one. In fact, I always like to start with the personal, and would you be willing to tell your story, the catalyst that really put you on this path, and also was the catalyst for your book?
Sure, absolutely. It goes back a few years now, 2012. It always amazes me how quickly time goes by, especially when you're doing something that you enjoy doing. Yep. And in 2012, I'll make it brief. I do talk about it in the book, but essentially I was on a mountain biking trip with my partner and my son in the mountains in Whistler, British Columbia, and it's pretty unforgiving territory, big mountains, big terrain, and we came to a section where the boys wanted to do a jump, and the idea was that I would bypass the jumps. I'm not a jumper. I like to be planted on the ground, whether it's my feet or my wheels or my snowboard, and I was heading towards this trail that bypassed all the jumps, and it was almost as if I had this uncontrollable urge or an uncontrollable force, and it pulled me into the jump section, and I thought to myself, well, I'll just roll over one of these jumps and, stop on the top of it and take a picture if I want. I don't have to get big air or anything like that. And as I approached this jump, I realized that I was approaching a big gap between the takeoff and the landing, and with a gully in between the two, and I didn't have enough speed to clear the jump, and I had too much speed to slow down, so I essentially catapulted through the air and head planted against a rock face on the other side before falling into a gully below with my bike landing on top of me. So as I impacted, I remember feeling as though, I didn't feel any pain. It was the oddest thing, and I didn't feel any panic, really, any anxiety. I just knew that I was hitting this rock wall. As a matter of fact, I kind of remarked in my own mind how beautiful the rock face was itself, because I had this up-close view of it and the lines in the rock and the whole 9 yards. And I sort of felt like I went somewhere else, although I didn't have any real immediate recollection of where I had gone. And that recollection started to come back to me as I went through my recovery process. But in the moment, it felt as though somebody or someone was absorbing the pain that I should have been feeling. And it was my second day of recovery. I left the hospital that day, just to backtrack a little bit, with multiple injuries and casts on both arms. And I was pretty banged up and pretty traumatized by the whole experience. And while I was in the casting room, and it came to my, it became clear that the doctor was about to put a cast on both arms, I felt myself go into this panic mode of, how am I going to take care of myself? How am I going to run my company? How am I going to water my animals that need watering? I have donkeys and animals and stuff, a little hobby farm. And I begged and pleaded with the doctor to pick the worst hand, cast it properly, and then pick the least damaged arm, cast it but then wrap it with a tensor so I could easily get the cast off if need be, if I went into a state of panic. And after some persuasive words, he agreed, and I had the cast off before I even got home. And that was my saving grace, really. It was my right arm. And during my recovery, I decided that I needed to do something proactive with my energy. I was feeling really down in the dumps and pretty depressed about the whole thing. I was beating myself up for putting myself in a situation where I was now reliant on other people. And so on the second day, I sat down on my deck and with an empty journal in my hand, and I thought, oh, I'll just write. Maybe that's something that will pass the time. And as I was contemplating what to write about, I realized that I had actually already been writing. And I saw my mother's name, who passed away in 1996, written at the bottom of one of these pages. And I quickly flipped back to see what had just happened and what I'd been writing about. And what I discovered is that I had channeled a 9-page letter from my mother, who passed away, as I said, in 1996. And I was just flabbergasted and amazed. And I read through this letter, and she talked about how my heart had been closed and now it was open, and I had this newfound connection to the other side, just like what happened to you with your health issues. And she talked about how we were in the heat of powerful times as a collective consciousness, and we were going through a spiritual evolution of sorts, and all these concepts that I had never contemplated before. And I also realized that the message itself was in her hand printing. She was a printer, and it was almost identical to that of her printing when she was alive here on Earth in this reality. And so that letter was the first time I had ever channeled. It was the first time I'd ever had this kind of connection to the other side. Although I was open to the idea, I had never done it myself. And I found that every day I woke up with this, renewed passion for life and this excitement to sit down and ask if anyone else was there. And that was the start of this channeling. And through those channeled sessions, I got a message from one of my prominent guides who I talk about in the book, Ruby, and I was told that in those moments that I was lying in the gully, I had actually left my body, and my heart had stopped momentarily, and in those moments I had left my body, and I had traveled with my guide and numerous other guides, and I was shown my life in totality, my life here on Earth in this physical form, as well as my eternal life. And I had made a conscious decision in those moments to come back into my body and with a renewed sense of who I am and why I'm here and why we're all here, and with a driving force to share that with the world and to share my story and to really start helping other people explore their own existence and answering questions, why we're here and what's our purpose and where do we go when we die, those kinds of things. And that was the birth of a Soulful Awakening, was my need to share my story and my experience.
Oh, I love that.
We are needing to take a break, and we'll be right back in a couple minutes.
Preceding audio was via a Skype call.
Chris Stanis is a spiritual leader and healer and teaches a course on how you can transform your life through a meditation and healing system that will manifest your spirit's dreams. She manifested the Women of Wisdom Conference, the Women of Wisdom book, and this radio show. And she can show you how to change your life too. Are you ready? Visit the website and contact her at voicesofwomentoday.com. That's voicesofwomentoday.com.
We Carry the Light with host Dr. Susan Allison is the show that inspires you to find the light within and shine your light in the world. You'll hear from guests who model how to be the highest, brightest, most evolved, fulfilled, and conscious humans possible. Tune in each Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com and let Dr. Susan help you discover that you carry the unique light that only you can shine.
Do you want to transform your life's trauma and challenges into the gift that your life was meant to be? It's time for you to take control of your soul journey to heal, grow, and shine. Manifest your destiny with Wendy Wolf, soul transformer, energy, and psychic healer. To start your soul journey, contact Wendy at healgrowshine.com or email Wendy at wendy@wendyrwolf.com and start your adventure today.
How would you like increased health and vitality? How would you like to avoid the onset of disease as well as slow the aging process? This is all possible through a simple, safe, and natural process. Every day we are either moving toward wellness or away from wellness.
Hi, I'm Mary Jane Mack. I'd like to be your partner in achieving optimal health. Contact me now at maryjanemack.com or call 425-392-0659. Visit maryjanemack.com.
Artie Hoffman is the hottest psychic with the warmest heart and the host of the hit show Angels and Answers. A renowned psychic, medium, spiritual life coach, and an entertaining motivational speaker, Artie has helped over 15,000 people with his amazing intuitive gifts, his passion, and his humor. Call 877-ANGEL-02 to schedule a personal reading or to have your own psychic Artie party. That's 877-ANGEL-02. And visit artiehoffman.com and Angels and Answers on Facebook.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
She asked me, do I look okay? I say, when I see your face, there's not a thing that I would change, 'cause you're amazing, just the way you are.
Hey everyone, welcome back to We Carry the Light. I'm Dr. Susan.
And Stephanie Banks' new book, A Soulful Awakening. You know, from that first moment sitting on your deck and writing, was it at all shocking to you that suddenly here's your mother, you're channeling your mother and her own handwriting and everything? What was the effect on you at first? And like, how long did it take you before you really got more of what your soul's purpose is here?
Well, when I first received that message, I was really perplexed and confused. And yeah. I mean, I've always liked to write, so I'll sit down and I'll write. But you know the difference when you're writing and when you're channeling something from somewhere else. And it took me. I mean, I was excited about it, but I was confused, and I think we can all relate to that feeling. And I really just wanted to continue to explore it, but still being apprehensive and really questioning what was going on, because my mind is also, although I'm a very alternative thinker, I always like to have answers to things and why is this happening and how is it possible. And I started to really look for confirmation in the messages I was receiving, and once I started to gain that confidence, and by reading what other people were writing about, and you know what was really interesting for me was that after about 6 months, I decided, you know, I need to start seeing what other people are writing about in this genre, in this field. I had never heard of Wayne Dyer, believe it or not, or Deepak Chopra. This is the kind of world I was living in before. And so I went to the library, and Gary Zukav book just jumped off the shelves into my arms, and I read it overnight, and I felt like I could have taken anything that he was writing about and inserted into my journals and vice versa, and it still would have all made sense. So I guess what I'm saying is that the things that I was receiving, the messages I was receiving from our guides and teachers on the other side, meshed so well with what some of our great writers and teachers are talking about, and that to me was just amazing confirmation. And that's when I started to have more faith in what I was doing, and decided to start sharing it with other people, because up until that point I had really only shared it with my husband and my son. So that was, you know, once I started to do that, I felt like I had something to contribute.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting, and I totally can relate to needing to find, other sources and be able to, relate to them and realize what it is that's happening to you. And just about everybody I know who's had an experience like this, that's exactly what they do. And it's like I can easily connect with spirit, and I do shamanic work and I can travel to other realms. But reading even Alexander's Proof of Heaven and other books like that really helped, because it can be kind of lonely, and also I also have gone through, am I crazy? And so, am I delusional? And no, I am absolutely not. And so your book also helped me realize that you are having experiences that are similar to ones that I've had. So it was actually very comforting, and I'm sure that people who read your book are doing the same thing you did when you read Gary Zukav's book. It's like they're going, thank goodness, here is someone else that had this experience, and I'm not alone.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And also, a lot of the messages that I'm receiving from people that have read the book are experiencing such amazing transformation and that is something that I wasn't really expecting out of the book, and maybe that's because I didn't really have any expectations behind the book other than I felt a certain responsibility to share it. But what I've discovered is that there's something in the way that the messages are delivered, and you can say the same thing in 5 or 6 different ways and have 5 or 6 different results in that message. And there's something about the way the messages are delivered from the other side that I think carries with it an energetic frequency or a vibration that strikes a chord, and within a chapter or a message or even a sentence, people will experience a shift and a transformation within themselves that they haven't experienced before. And that to me has just been such an amazing blessing and an offshoot from the book that definitely solidified my reasoning for putting it into the form of a book. And the messages themselves are exactly how they came out, although editors and spell check and everybody else was, wanting me to change certain things. I was pretty determined on just keeping the messages exactly how they came out so that the reader can then translate it for themselves appropriately.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did that, because there is a vibration. I'm really sensitive to energy. And I was crying reading some of them early on in the book. And I can't remember the guy's name right now. It starts with a T. Like, not Testro or...
Oh, Ustro.
Ustro. Oh, my goodness. That message, or one of the early ones in the book, just had me in tears. And so I really honor you for not letting them change them, because you see it's a soul language. It's light language. There's like a language I feel from the divine realm, or for whatever you want to call that world, the upper world in shamanism. But there's a certain, it's a little more formal, isn't it? There's like it's a language that is a spirit language almost that's coming through, is what I was realizing.
Exactly. It's like an ancient, it's got such a feeling of depth to it, and that was for me really in the at the beginning and now to this day why I know that it wasn't just me, because I went through that. Is this just me? Am I?
No.
And if it is, wow, I'm a pretty profound person.
No, it wasn't you. I mean, all people have to do is look at your style, and then look at what you channeled, and these beings, like Ruby, I guess it's a he, but Ruby's, comments to you and words of wisdom. I mean, it's totally a different style from yours.
Exactly. And then from each other, they're all different. And that was something that I really embraced and loved so much, was that each one of them has a unique personality, for lack of a better word. And, you know, some of them come through very subtly and you know, quietly, and, you know, little nudges here and there. And then there's certain guides that are more direct and to the point, and no, this is what needs to happen, and this is what this is about. And I can feel that, and I think other people can feel that when they read the messages. And also, you know, I actually at one point contemplated trying to get the messages into the book in their actual handwritten form, because for me, that was one of the most special things about these messages, is that each one of them has their own unique handwriting. Like I said, my mother's came out in her handwriting. My grandfather, when he comes through, is in his handwriting. Solomon has the most beautiful, amazing cursive writing, and I don't cursive write ever. I'm horrible at it. I actually missed it in school due to a move, so it's not something that I choose to do. And the first time I channeled Solomon, I just couldn't get over the beauty of the handwriting itself. So there's so much more to it than just the words and what they're delivering. There's that energetic vibration that goes along with it.
Yeah, no, exactly. You say that actually on page 10. There are many different voices. Sherman H. Harlow is eloquent and elegant, and Ruby and Solomon are more straight to the point. Ustro was gentle in his approach. And so I think that's why Ustro really affected me. It was that gentleness, the sweetness.
And I think that's what I needed at the beginning. That was my introductory. You know, it's like if you don't know how to swim, you don't just dive into the deep end, right? Yep. You need to start in the shallow end and work your way into that as you gain confidence. And for me, I think really what I needed was first my mom to hold my hand, you know.
Yep.
Here you are, dear. Here we are. And then in comes Ustro with his kindness and his, I mean, not that they're not all kind, because they are, but it's just that really gentle introduction to all of this. Otherwise, I may have just fled and run and hid in a closet and thought that maybe I hit my head too hard.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the people that our guides, our teachers, our helpers in the spirit realm, they're taking us in baby steps. And I think that's what happened for you, is that they took you along in a way that you could accept it and understand it, and then they kept adding more and more and more.
And there was actually a one-liner that really stands out, and I can't remember who it was from now, and it said just that baby steps pave the way to enlightenment, and they really do. And
I remember that.
And it was such a good line, and I actually started to use that as, you know, my own, as a mantra for myself when I was starting to practice mindfulness and not letting my mind start running away and start thinking about all the things that I need to do and worry about and yada, 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 like we all do. So as I started practicing the things that were coming through in the messages, that was one that I would say to myself quite frequently, and it's something that I'm trying to advocate, is that it doesn't need to be this big, overwhelming, daunting process to become more of a conscious being and to change some of our ways. And it's something that can be done daily in little increments. And, you know, you sort of pick a starting point and decide, okay, you know, this is what I'm going to do for the next month. I'm going to really start focusing on my thoughts and where they take me. And when they take me down the road of worry and regret and doubt, then I'm going to bring myself back into this moment and start thinking more positively, or I'm going to start changing my diet, or I'm going to practice patience. This whole thing doesn't need to be overwhelming, and I think sometimes we have a tendency to put a lot of pressure on ourselves to change overnight, and when we don't, then we have a tendency to be really hard on ourselves. And it doesn't need to be that way. You know, it all starts from the intention and the need and the want to change the way that we're interacting with the world around us, and to be patient and diligent in that process, but yet to remember to always come from a place of love, first towards ourselves, and then once we really align with that love for ourselves and it becomes second nature, well, it should really become first nature, then we can start sharing that and expressing that towards other people.
Yes, absolutely right. And
we are needing to take a break, and we'll be right back in a couple minutes.
I wandered through fiction to look for the truth, buried beneath all the lies, and I stood at a distance.
The preceding audio was via a Skype call.
Are you ready to thread your life with intuition? Intuit Apparel can help you do just that. This is not just about a piece of clothing. This is about a movement, an awakening, and staying centered in life. Your life. Intuitive and host of the radio show Get Into It, Lynn Brown, was given this image with the intention of a clothing line designed to represent the essence of life itself. Visit intuitapparel.com now and wear your intuition with pride.
Are you feeling stressed, in pain, disconnected, worried about aging? Corrective alignment and integration therapy restores health. Move your body, which frees your mind and elevates your spirit. Bodywise Bodywork LLC provides the tools you need to create the change you've been waiting for. Start living a fully present and integrated life. Book your 15-minute consultation online at www.bodywisebodywork.com. Bodywise Bodywork LLC, because it's the only body you've got.
If you're one of the millions of Americans suffering from anxiety, you probably know how powerless and out of control this emotion can make you feel. This is why it is so important to remember that anxiety is created by your mind, which means that you can learn to use your mind to uncreate it. Hello, my name is Dr. Friedman Schaub. My award-winning book, The Fear and Anxiety Solution, provides you with a step-by-step breakthrough process to understand and resolve the root causes of your anxiety and build a solid foundation of confidence and inner peace. If you're ready to take your power back, visit thefearandanxietysolution.com. That's thefearandanxietysolution.com, or call 866-903-6463. That's 866-903-MIND.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Self in your eyes. Hold on before it's too late. Run till we leave this behind.
Hey everyone, welcome back to We Carry the Light. I'm Dr. Susan.
And Stephanie Banks' new book, A Soulful Awakening. I loved some of this is related, what you just were saying, to some of the things you were talking about, the later chapters, how we are all one, and the times are changing, and why it's so important for us to know this now, to love ourselves, to find our own purpose, and then, to be able to go out and to love others and to model for them who we can be and what we can do in terms of right now on the planet. So can you talk a little bit about that, those last couple of chapters, in terms of where we are and what we perhaps all need to be looking at?
Well, I think the most important part to remember in those two chapters, we are all one and times are changing, is just that we are all one, that we originate from the same source, we're living through the same source, and we return to the same source. And, certain parts of the world, and I know, where I live in Canada, and I'm sure where you live, we've sort of become really proud of the fact that we're independent and we can take care of ourselves, and we really focus on that. I don't need any help. I can do this on my own. Well, really, we're not serving ourselves or anybody else by adopting that practice and by living through that practice and that mindset. And, when you remind yourself that we're all one, we're all connected by the same roots, we're all a reflection of one another, then we start to embrace the fact that we're here not only to serve ourselves, but when we allow other people to serve us, then we let that in, and in return, we are more prone to serve other people. And this is what keeps us working together, and this is what builds community, and to be okay with the fact that we need help. You know, we need community around us, and we're drawing from each other's strengths and learning from each other's weaknesses. And I think right now we're going through a time of spiritual evolution where we're starting to wake up and remember that, and that's that thing that's bubbling inside a lot of us. And it's just, for some people, they're not recognizing what exactly that is. And what that is, in my opinion anyways, is a remembrance that there's more to life, and that we are connected, and that we're here to work together, and that when we learn ways of working together and sharing what we have, and not feeling the need to hoard everything for ourselves, then the world will eventually become a better place. And I know this, it sounds idealistic, but I do believe that as time goes on and we carry on in this direction of ascension, which I think we're going, I know that there's some polarities going on, and there's a lot of disruption around the world, but that's bound to happen as things sort of come to a head. And right now I feel like, we're at the point of eruption, so to speak, in a good way. I think that 2012 was a marking point for the scales tipping from being slightly more negative to being slightly more positive, and you can see it in little things around, just little things like juicing bars showing up on every corner, and yoga going off the scales. Right. And these are just starting points. So for those of us who have awakened a little bit more than other people, I believe that we have a certain responsibility to ourselves and to the world to share and give platforms like what you're doing with your radio show for people to come to and realize that they're not going crazy, and that when we start to change and awaken, we're going to feel conflict within until we start recognizing what we're doing, and to start following our passions. That's such a big part of it. Once we start following our heart and the direction it wants to go, we start becoming more in alignment with ourselves, and in turn, we start to understand what's going on and what that change is all about.
That's right. Yeah, it starts within us, but it's sort of like we're a microcosm of what we're seeing in the world right now, I believe. You're talking in a way about futurists, and, ever since 2012, I completely agree with you. I started another radio show in 2012, and I had Barbara Marx Hubbard on, and all of these futurists, Bruce Lipton, and all of these people are saying that, we're obviously, things are changing. You can just see it around us, and we can feel it, that it has to start within us. And Barbara Marx Hubbard says, you figure out what it is that's your passion, like you said, and what you love, and what it is that only you can do. And then you decide what that is, what that passion and what it is that makes you happy and what you love. And then you do it. The trick is we don't just sit with it. We have to take action, and we go out in the world and do it. And, it's like we're a puzzle piece, so, of this huge puzzle, this huge jigsaw puzzle of the world and of everyone in it. And we take our piece and we put it in, and it becomes part of the whole. So, yeah, I loved everything you said. It's exactly how I am seeing what's happening in the world.
Mm-hmm. And I think, sometimes when it comes to doing the things that we really want to do and feel the need to do, we become really accustomed to getting so caught up in our daily lives and the hustle and bustle that goes along with that we don't take time to do those things. Yeah. And when we do, we feel guilty about doing it, so we're not really in the moment of doing whatever that thing is. Yes. We're spending time justifying, and I still do this, especially this time of year when my business is, in its height, and there's, I could literally spend 24 hours a day working 7 days a week. But the reality is that I actually accomplish more and get more done on a daily basis if I take the time in the day, at least at some point, even if it's just half an hour, to do something that that I'm really vibrating with. And when I take that time, I really take it, and I don't spend 20 minutes out of the 30 minutes coming up with excuses of why I'm doing this. And I think, for everybody listening, you're doing everyone else a favor by doing the things that you love, because then with that, like I said, you're really becoming in alignment with your higher self. And then when you feel that alignment, you're a happier person. You have a tendency to be less judgmental and a tendency to be more patient and compassionate and loving and caring and all these things that I think most of us really strive for and want to be. But when we are out of alignment with ourselves, that's where our fears take over. And with fear comes judgment and resentment and manipulation and control and all those, wonderful things that we need to keep in check.
Yep. Very true.
We are needing to take a break, and we'll be right back in a couple minutes.
The preceding audio was via a Skype call.
Tune in to the hit show Masters Chambers with your trusted friend Connie Fife. Mondays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Each week, Connie will connect you with the best thought leaders from around the globe to share their strategies and best practices. Getting better together. To book Connie, visit ConnieFifeSpeaks.com.
Holistic Medical Center is where you find it all. A healthy space with doctors who care, see, and listen to the whole you. Hi, this is Dr. Darvish. If you have not found an answer to your chronic symptoms, you will find answers here at Holistic Medical Center. Our doctors find the root cause of your symptoms and guide your body towards healing naturally. We transform lives from within. Visit drdarvish.com or call 425-451-0404.
On the cutting edge of the new mainstream, Christine Upchurch is passionate about bringing together science, psychology, and spirituality in a way that can be applied to our everyday lives for true transformation. The Christine Upchurch Show, stellar conversations to illuminate your journey, engages some of the most outstanding visionaries on the planet in lively dialogue to inspire you to become that bright light you're meant to be. Join Christine every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time on KKNW, AM 1150, and Transformation Talk Radio.
Each month, listen to Live More Radio with co-host Allie Katz. Join Allie and Dr. Pat as Allie introduces new ways to bring balance back to your life through meditation, sleep, and exercise techniques so you can live your truly authentic life. Stress less, live more. To learn more about Allie, visit livemoreradio.com.
Enlightening, humorous, and compassionate. Listen live to The Kelly Ballard Show, insight and inspiration from the great beyond. Kelly is a fourth-generation medium and intuitive who covers topics ranging from grief, spirit guides, and listening to your intuition. Kelly can help you get answers and guidance from the other side with a little bit of humor and a lot of healing. Tune in to The Kelly Ballard Show, Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific Time here on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Tune in to The Jen Royster Show, intuitive guidance to inspire your life, each Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This amazing show is an inspirational hour that will take you on an epic metaphysical journey to discover the spiritual approach to life's greatest challenges. Dr. Jen is an internationally known intuitive counselor, spiritual teacher, and energy healer. Call in for intuitive readings and visit JenRoyster.com for more information.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Hey everyone, welcome back to We Carry the Light. I'm Dr. Susan.
And Stephanie Banks' new book, A Soulful Awakening. You know, I'm glad you mentioned the higher self word, because in the book you talk about this. You talk about the ego, you know, and so I feel that what we're really, I mean, the ego is fear, right? And so when you're talking about, you know, being in, also when you were talking about being in separation, you know, that, you know, I can do this myself and I'm isolated and, I have this, and, you know, that separation, you know, is also to me the ego. And I think that we've had kind of this whole sort of collective ego thing happening that has made us separate from one another. And I think that's changing, as you said. And so you talk a lot in the book about fear and ego and how it really gets in our way and keeps us from vibrating in our higher self.
Exactly. Well, because fear is such a low vibrational energy, and when we have a choice in everything we do. And the way I look at things, because as complex as I can be, I've realized that the universe is really quite simple. It boils down to some very simple fundamental truths, and one of them to me is that in every situation we have a choice to come from a place of fear or from a place of love. And when you start looking, what I had to do with my own life was I had to step back from it a little bit, change the lens that I was seeing my life from, which was a macro lens, essentially. I was so close into my life that I wasn't seeing the broader picture. So I literally envisioned myself changing that lens to a wide angle and stepping back. And in every situation, I look at it as if I'm a witness to my life as opposed to being the person in it. And that in itself kind of evokes a sense of separation. But really what it did is it brought me closer to who I am. So I established a relationship with my ego, and I recognized it for what it is. And I appreciate it for being there to give me the opportunity to shift my perception in a situation and then challenge myself to not react from a place of fear, but to respond from a place of love. And the most fulfilling thing I think we can do in any situation is to transform a potentially conflicting moment to one where you create cohesion and stability. And sometimes it's very, very difficult to do, especially when you're dealing with somebody, you know, like an ex, for example. That's my biggest challenge, is dealing with my ex-husband. And you just have certain relationships where you have a lot of resentment that has built up over the years. And it's easy, you know, to talk on the radio about, come from a place of love, and you know, but when you're in the situation itself, it's very difficult. But when you actually manage to do that and set it all aside and let it all go and recognize that the past is the past and now is now, to me, there's nothing more fulfilling than getting through those moments and transforming a situation to something positive and light.
Absolutely right. And that's, you know, the test is in our daily interactions, in our daily life, in the little things that frustrate us, and to be able to come from a place of love instead of fear in every moment. And what you were saying also to me is about being in the present and healing the past, letting it go, forgiveness. There's so much we could talk about this. But before we go any further, we have about 5 or 6 minutes left. I would love for you to tell listeners how to get your book, how to contact you, and what you offer to people in terms of clients. Do you do phone sessions? Like, what do you do? Go ahead and share that if you would.
Well, my website is stephaniebanks.org, and I have a contact page there. I also sell the book directly from the website, signed copies that I ship from here in Canada. It's also available at Balboa Press, soon to be hopefully one day Hay House.
Exactly.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and on my website there's a page for readings. So if anyone's interested, I do personal readings And then there's a couple different options there. I can just do a reading and scan it and email it. I like to do that because then you see the handwriting or the printing. And there's also an option where we can have a one-on-one session after via Skype or the telephone, which I like to do because oftentimes when I receive a message for somebody, there is a lot of energy that goes along with it that I can articulate afterwards when we're discussing it. And I find for a lot of people that they don't have anyone else to talk to about this sort of thing, about personal issues that they're experiencing and going through, and to have somebody that is completely unbiased to their life is a very safe place to be. So I love doing the messages for other people. It took me a while to get to the point where I felt comfortable doing that, and now just from the response that I've received over the last 2.5 years from people who have received a message from a guide or a loved one who has passed on, and I've seen the relief and the sense of change that it can create. It's one of the most powerful things that I have to offer, and I just love doing that. And, I have one person in particular who asked for a message from her father who had passed away, and I don't always know if that person's going to come through. So I was a little bit, worried, I guess, that I wouldn't receive the message that she wanted. And it turned out I did receive a message from her father, and she had been really stuck. She'd been in a really bad place, and she hadn't been able to get through a day without crying about her father who had passed away. And I delivered the message to her at the top of a ski hill. We met there, and it shifted that message. Just that one message removed the blocks that she had formed, and now she has an open connection to her father anytime she wants. And that, just being able to share that with people is so special to me, and I love that. So that's available on my website, and I have a blog and a Facebook page and the rest of it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So it's interesting that you went from what I call automatic writing, where the messages come through, which has happened to me many times. They come through, and as I'm writing, but it seems like you've gone from being able to write to now having them sort of download, and then you can speak the message, which is such a gift for people.
Mm-hmm. Well, it definitely comes through more in the form of writing, but that, to me, I think is my own limitation that I've created, because that's how it started, and we're such habitual creatures that it's hard to break those patterns. So, and maybe it's just that part of me that loves to write, and there's something in that I just enjoy. So,
and I don't think it's a limitation at all. I think it's just your gift, and it's how it comes through. And I think it's beautiful that it does, and that you are a gift to so many people, Stephanie. And you've taken something that's an incredibly difficult experience. And those of you who are going to get the book, I don't want to spoil it, but there's lots of other stories and lots of loss that you've experienced, and lots of growth from all of that. And thank you so much for being on the show, and I hope that everyone goes out and gets your book, A Soulful Awakening. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
You're so welcome. And thank you, all my fantastic listeners, for your own growth and transformation. You don't need to nearly die to evolve. Just be willing to take in what inspires you and motivates you to find your own purpose and live it. Next week, we welcome Christine Carlson, who also talks about death and transformation in her beautiful book, Heartbroken Open. And until then, this is Dr. Susan reminding you that you carry the light.
You've been listening to the transformative show, We Carry the Light, with host Dr. Susan Allison, the show that inspires you to find the light within and shine your light in the world. Who are you right now, and who do you want to be? What is it that makes you happy, helps you feel fulfilled, and living your purpose? Tune in every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, and let Dr. Susan help you discover that you carry the unique light that only you can shine.